let's bring our safe returning baby. Let's give it up. Come on, give it a right. Give it a right.
In my office, the first thing I did, talking to the office was working from home, and that sounds very good. However, we don't know who anyone is. So I gave them a month, and starting February 3rd, or really Monday, February 6th, everybody needs to be in the office, because we're finding people that we're seeing them on social media, not even in the country, in other places, and then we're realizing they get checks. So, that's your tax money. I'm very best to fight for you. I'm learning this process. I'm making sure we work collaboratively with all the stakeholders, whether it's the delegates, whether it's our city council members, whether it's our Congressman Infumi or our Mayor Brandon Scott or our Governor Westmore. I'm doing everything I can. But at the end of the day, one of the things I also did was make sure that low-level offenses, that the police department, they have the opportunity to use all the tools in their tool, cognizant of making sure we hold people accountable for the quality of life crimes, but making sure that we do it in a way that doesn't affect their future, because at the end of the day, whether it's drug usage, we recognize you need drug treatment. If you're loitering and trespass, why don't you do some community service, Heck, I go to church up the street, New Metropolitan Baptist Church. And I remember one of the main reasons I decided that we need to do this, because my church members sat there and said they wouldn't even come to evening and afternoon service anymore, because they're afraid of walking up and down the streets. And that's because they loitered and trespassing late at night. Like I said, I'm not trying to put you in jail, but Miss Johnson won't come to church. Miss Johnson get to come walk up and down that sidewalk that she helped pay for with her tax dollars, when she worked for the past 30, 40 years and retired. So we're going to hold them accountable, but we're going to do it in a way that's safe and it's fair to them, it's safe and fair to all of us. Let them know that the citizens are not happy with these time-served sentences for these guns. Because basically, he gave this young person we offered that person 3 years to spend all but 1 year to take a plea. The judge gave that person, after trial, 3 years to spend all but 6 months. So what type of message are you giving to say after trial you can get a better offer than we offering for a plea? A lot of people talk about is my gun bill. And I definitely want to talk here to the delegate. Be honest, I've been franking up front. There's a process, a protocol. Didn't follow process and protocol. I wish I would have had a transition. But what happened is I was speaking in front of the judiciary on the Senate side, and they asked me some questions. I was talking about the gun bill. Did I have a sponsor? Didn't have a sponsor. There's certain ways you need to sit down and give the delegates the respect to talk to them way in advance. But once again, I didn't have that transition. Those are things that you just don't know if you don't know. But I did know that we needed a gun bill, and I was trying to do everything I could. So while I apologize for not following the protocol, I'm trying my best to fight for you guys. Because what I do know is we have a gun problem. These guns are they're out of control. But I also need to make sure the system's fair. So what I propose is really this. If you have an illegal handgun, there are 2 ways they can prosecute you. One, if you're between 18 and 20, if you're prosecuted for having an illegal handgun possession, that means the gun is not registered to you, then you can receive 5 years in jail. Well, that's pretty significant, and it's a misdemeanor. But if you're 21 or above, you have that same handgun, you're only facing 3 years in jail. Well, first of all, that's not fair. Everybody should get the same thing across the board. And so that's why I propose to make it 5 years. The only thing I'm asking for is 5 years, because it's a misdemeanor. So it's not going to go ahead and be a felony on your record. But why is that 5 years important? It's important because, remember, I was a criminal defense attorney before I became your state's attorney. And one of the things I learned from my clients that I represented, they weren't really concerned about 3 years in jail. See, they knew that in 2016 they had the Justice Reinvestment Act, and it said you only do 25% of the time for a misdemeanor. So 3 years is 8 months. 8 months means they're sitting right over in the local jail. They're with their friends and their, some of their family members. The mothers still visit them, the cousins visit them, and they're on the phone all the time. That's okay. However, DOC is a little different. If you get 5 years, you're going to give me about 13, 14 months in DOC. But realistically, your case is going to take about 6, 7, 8 months to get through the court system in the city. So you're no longer doing time served for a gun. Now you have to go to Division of Correction. Not asking for a long time, just enough of a taste to realize that that's not where you want to be. And then I'm not trying to have you have that conviction on your record your whole life. Because what I'm saying is, once you've done a little time in DOC, you're like, oh, this isn't for me. You're going to be on probation and parole. You can go ahead and get you the GED classes, the educational classes you need. Make sure we go ahead and get you the job training programs you need. If you do that for 3 years, no new convictions, we'll bring you back, give you a probation before judgment, allow you to expunge your record. So now you have a clean slate, a clean lease on life. But I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, my dad told me a hard head made a soft, you know what? And so, I was a little hard headed, but my dad was one of these individuals. Once he told me one time, and I got that message. So the way I kind of look at things, I want them to have that message early on. I don't want mass incarceration. I don't want these young kids having these criminal records. I want to give them a path to change their life. That's very, very important. But I also recognize if I don't go ahead and hold them accountable now, they believe the criminal justice system is a joke, and they're running around with these guns and shooting and killing individuals. I'd much rather have them doing 13 months for carrying that gun than 30 or 40 years for using that gun.